Josef Sudek was the most well-known Czech photographer who worked throughout the majority of the 20th century. And when we think of who is Josef Sudek, the most important thing to me to focus on is really who he was as a person. He stuck to his own vision of how everything was supposed to be portrayed. So you can see a thread of Sudek throughout all 75 years of his working career. He was using photography as a way to explore the world around him, and it was really in many ways therapeutic. In his late teens, he began playing and experimenting with box cameras, but then he was enlisted in World War I. He took a camera with him, and so while he was there, he actually took 3 different series of photographs. When he was in the First World War, he lost his arm and had to be amputated, and so he became known as this figure throughout Prague who was so immensely dedicated to photography and the craft that he was willing to literally carry an enormous 8x10-inch camera and the plates and all of the equipment just with one arm. So he returned from the war and he really just felt that the camera for him was the perfect way to capture the poetic beauty in everything he saw, whether it was, the streets of Prague, which had this inherent beauty, of course, because it's such a gorgeous city, or it was his windowsill and these still lives. And really, it was the light quality that provided him the ability to portray everything so poetically and perfectly through his eyes. Consequently, he had this poetic patience where he was willing to wait for hours in any setting. A perfect example of that is the first series that he's most well known for, a portfolio that depicts the interior of St. Vitus Cathedral. He took photographs well before he was commissioned for the portfolio. He loved the church and he loved documenting the construction of it. And Sudek would wait for a particular day in a particular month when he knew that the light quality was going to be shining through the church windows at a certain angle, and he knew that he wanted to capture it at that exact moment. Some people think that this portfolio is quintessentially Sudek because it captures not only the monumentality of the cathedral itself, but also these are intimate photographs. So it wasn't just about documenting the church and portraying a sense of what the interior looked like, so much as a sort of poetic cycle. Sudek's studio is extremely well known, mostly for the series that he made over 20 years, entitled The Window of My Studio. And so we have a number of examples here, beautiful examples of pieces that he took while in his studio. Most people think of it as, during this immense upheaval, it was a time for him to self-reflect, to become more introspective, and to focus on the beauty of these inanimate objects. In the 50s, Sudek became extremely interested in photographing panoramically, and as a result, he created one of his most well-known series at the end of his life, and that turned into a book called Prague Panorama. I appreciate his resilience, his devotion to beauty, to light, to recognizing that even if his city was being ravaged by war, he was able to focus on these beautiful little objects on his windowsill that gave him a sense of true appreciation of being alive. And you can really see this sense of appreciation in life in all of these pictures, and that is what I think makes him stand out as one of the best photographers of the 20th century.